Well, I'm going to make my second video, and this one's really important. Alright, let's put a scenario out. Crap has hit the fan, and it's springtime. I don't have no, these lids have done lost their seal. The rings are all rusted, unfit to use for canning. Alright. These rings here on some of these jars is done lost their seal. They're done brittle. Ain't no good. These jars will last forever. Glass will. Okay. See how they rusted up? You can still buy the rubber rings and put around them. And I just keep these for novelty's sake. And these glass lids, there's always some other kind of lids, but most of them require, I paid $7 just for this damn video. It's an old jar of half a gallon, and it's got the rubber seal on it. I wouldn't trust this across the street because it's old and brittle. And the old lid, I did pay $7 for it, so here. I've got some in the garage, but I could have dug, but I just want to show you these jars have been around 100 years. These rubber seals won't. You can get them on Amazon if you want a can that way. Okay, let me see here. Then you got jars that ain't got no lid that fits them. What am I going to do? Let me show you something. Okay. Now these jars here, like I said, when these rust out like that is, and the lids ain't no good, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'm messing with this cupcake paper. Alright. There's a remedy. Now, a lot of times you can melt wax and pour it on the top of your jars and seal them. My mother used this method for a long time. Just melt wax, put your, it's good for high acid foods. Most of the time they dried and the beans are low acid foods or dehydrated it. And other ways to do it, salt and sugar cure. But for like jellies and jams, they put wax on the top of the jar. Well, that was probably in the 20s and 30s. Because they get paraffin wax. Alright, my grandma, thank God bless her soul, she went through the Civil War. This is beeswax. Make sure you get the food grade beeswax. And she would do it the same way. Grandma said that this is more sterile because it's got, honey's got, don't never spoil, and it's got an enzyme in it, like an antibiotic, anaerobic, and antiseptic. You can look it up. But then, these jars here, and the ones that don't have a lid, you can cut just a piece of paper, or you can use coffee filters, regular paper, and now what's that going to do for it? Let me put this back in because I ain't going to use a small one. For example, I've still got I do jellies and jams and preserves, and these just about wore out. So here we go. Back in the olden days, like these Crocs. I don't know if you can see it. These Crocs. They would pour the wax and stuff on it, put a rag on it, and tie it up with a rope. And these big old Crocs like this one, they had big old lids for them. They would seal them up with wax or beeswax. But way back there in the 10th and 12th century, they had crock jars like this, which is, but I'm going to show you how to do it with a glass one, which is the same process. See, these lids will not fit these jars. Too big. So this jar is pretty well useless without a lid. Canning. But you could take a regular egg in the spring or any time of the year, but in the spring, if you don't even have chickens, you can find crow eggs, you can find hawk eggs, you can find buzzard eggs, eggs. And you need to separate the yolk from the white and put it in a pan. I wish I could get this down a little bit further, but anyway. And you beat it up. Now, what am I going to do with this egg yolk? Let me show you something. Your jellies and jams are hot. They say that jar has just been filled with jellies and jams. It's hot. Because I just got to cooking it on a wood stove or a hearth. And then, let me put this fork somewhere. And then you take your round piece of paper without no writing on it. I use a coffee filter, and you put it down in the egg white. Make sure it's all covered. Here, it's all getting absorbed in the egg white. Now, what am I going to do with this piece of paper with egg white? Well, let me show you. I'm going to take it out without tearing it. And I'm going to, I wish you could see this, but I'm going to put it over this jar. And I'm going to seed it. This is how they did in the 7th, 8th, 9th century, in the 10th century, in the 12th century. And then they stretched it. And now make sure it's on there. Don't wipe my hands off. Now, when that seals, when that dries, that egg yolk dries, it's going to soak up and stretch out like a drum. You know, everybody play the drum, we'll go tonk, 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 tonk. Well, this will stretch out like a drum. I got a little bit too much egg white up, but it's all right. I'll wipe it off. And it dries, that paper dries, it'll turn into like a drum. Now this is all they had back in the day, and they put it on crockery, and they had a little bit of glass, but they mostly had to use it on crocks. Now that dries like a drum, and when it dries, it'll stiffen up. You can even thump it, like thump, 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 from that egg white. And all it is, like I said, that's how they preserve their jellies and jams. Then they come up to put wax on it and paraffin it later on, and this, that, and the other. But right now they use paper. or parchment they called it, which is paper basically. And and when that dries, if this thing is full of jelly, and it helps when the jar is hot for brand new jelly. But like I said, that'll dry like a drum. I'll show it to you in a few days. And it'll preserve that egg hardened. When it gets hardened, it'll be just like a seal of a jar, like one of these jars. It'd be like a sealed jar. And that's what we're going to have to do when we can long term after the crap hits the fan. You got to come up with new ways or back to the old ways. They say there ain't no electricity. There's no solar that don't work. Everything's gone. And we're back to the 12th and 13th and 14th century preserving stuff. Well, this is one way to preserve your high acid foods. Now, I wouldn't recommend it for low acid food, but I would high acid foods. And what it'll do, right around this rim, is seal off, and when it does, it'll harden. We're going to leave it there. We'll show you in a couple of days. But your rubber seals, your metal lids, even your glass lids that requires a rubber ring, these will all get old, bent up, and unusable. Like this one here is a used lid. Now, I might vacuum seal this lid, but I don't think I'd ever can with it again, because the old rubber gets old and brittle. And even jars like this, that ring is just about to break. I mean, but I could order new ones, but why would, when you can't order on Amazon and everything's down and you're back to the 8th, 9th, and 10th century, you're going to end up with vinegar, pickle stuff, dehydrated stuff, salt and sugar cure stuff, and everything else. Everything but how you going to keep your jellies and jams. Now, most of the beans and stuff like that, they dried them. Or they raised the acid level up so they could keep it. Like I said, my mother used, in her canning, I don't care what she was canning, she'd pour paraffin on the top of this and still seal the jar. And it worked great. Grandma was always using beeswax. And she had her own method about that. Now, she went to the Civil War. Way before some of these jars were even made, maybe that one back there in the bag. She would tell me a story about her mother and her grandmother, mainly her grandmother, using paper to seal up these jars with egg white. And it works as long as that paper ain't broke. Now, if you end up breaking, you can't stack anything on it, but if you end up breaking that paper and breaking that seal, you got to eat the contents inside within a week or so, or 2 or 3 days. But that's how they kept it long term. I remember that from last night. I was thinking about my grandmother. I stayed with her for a while when I was very, very young, and she'd tell me all kinds of old stories. And I asked her one time, I said, she had one of these paper sealed up jars. I said, Grandma, what is that? She said that's the way they used to can, her grandmother used to do. So she had born maybe 100 years before that. So probably in the late 1700s. Yeah, somewhere in that area. And she said that's how they canned. They had these old clocks and stuff like that, and they had the paper on top of it. And you can use any kind of paper as long as it don't have ink on it. And like I said, I used to use a coffee filter. I'm going to start doing that and get back in the habit of it. It should last anywhere from a year to 4 years at least as long as one of these other jars will last, as long as you don't poke a hole in that paper. I mean, it's precarious, but it works. Now, I wouldn't do it on low acid fooding, but high acid, yeah, I would. Because that'll dry up, and we'll give it a shot and show you how well it does. I'll do one jar. When I can my jelly, I'll do one jar like that, just for the hell of it. But I know there's a woman on YouTube that cans with these glass lids, but you still got to have a rubber seal. It ain't the idea of canning or whatever without a rubber seal. These things rust. That'll rust and finally wear out. And then the rubber seal that goes on here will wear out. Then all you got left is a piece of paper and the egg white. Now, I ain't telling you to do it. I'm just showing you what they used to do in the times gone by. And like I said, I might put a wax seal or beeswax seal on the top and then do that. But she said you didn't have to do anything but the paper. And like I said, this is an old. Look how old this thing is. You can see the label on it. I got a bunch of these old jars. It's made up with wire. Regular old wire. Twisted. I wouldn't can them without. But now, see, these will not fit. These will not fit. Oh, I dropped that. Oh, see, they won't fit these lids. They're the same size, but they won't fit. So there you go. Nice jar. Get rid of the wire, but you can still can with paper or beeswax on it. I'd rather use beeswax than I would paraffin. Like I said, bring back some of the old times. I'll keep dropping that lid. Let's see if this lid fits this old jar. I can vacuum seal anyway. No, but don't. It do not fit it. Like I said, it's wrong lid. This one works. And what they do, let's see if I can get it up now. Well, I always have a hard time with these. That's one reason I won't use them. Put it over there. But, like I said, these Crocs, then the liquid that. We'll do another one here. This old Croc. Now you can get a lot of egg yolk. I mean, not the egg yolk, but the egg white. And then they just put this over the top. And then pushed it down. I hope you guys see what I'm doing. And let me wipe the jar off, the old Crock off. I get that stuff everywhere when I do it. But that'll dry up like a drum. And you can use this on any jar or any container you can get. This is one of them. Because that egg, when it dries, it's dried. Grandma used to say a lot of people use flour with water. But she said that drawed bugs. She said she had different ways, but this was the best way she said to do it. When that dries, it'll turn into a drum. But that's what I'm getting at. When the paraffin, I got something coming. Beeswax, I got about 20 pounds of this stuff. And you'll figure out how to slide and can when you in the spring when you ain't got much to do. You'll have a bunch to do. Because a lot of people quit canning because they don't know that old method. But then the eggs come in handy. I think one of the famous painters used to put egg yolk in his paint. I forget which one. But my grandma used egg whites and beat it up and sealed it up in a jar. When that jelly was hot, but she was ready. She'd have all the papers cut out and ready to go. And then she'd stack them on the shelves. She wouldn't put nothing on top of them because she said you can't do that because it'll break your paper. And she was probably right. She lived way over 100. I really don't know how old she was. She told me stories about the Civil War. And she told me how I'd help her can and do stuff. But there's all kinds of fermentation and stuff. You can buy these jars here at novelty shops and stuff. I think I bought this in second-handed. You know, eventually that'd be all right for short-term use. Because, I mean, I sold a couple of auction packs in it and for noodles and stuff. But, like I said, you want long-term use as long as that paper ain't broke. It'll last just as long as one of these jars with a lid on it. I gotta clean this mess up. But that is the way to go when you ain't got nothing else. And you know when something goes bad. You know, high acid foods is resistance against botulism and stuff. Like I said, I'm busy doing canning. I've got to get that. I got to get that alcohol wine put up, that pineapple wine. Now I do my vinegars and stuff. I can pickle meat. I can pickle fruit. I can pickle, and you can even put fruit in alcohol, you know, to preserve it. But like I said, learn these old ways. You know, I told my kids I'm the keeper of them. 'Cause I remember, and I can remember when I was young. And like I said, these ways of sealing something up. Now what they'd do in this, they'd put stuff in it, this old crock. This old heavy crock. I got some bigger ones and some smaller ones. But they'd fill this up with beeswax, and then they put a lid on it, and then they put a rag around it, and then they would tie it up with a rope. But like I said, if you ain't got no lids and you won't trust them, trust this. It'll work. Well, I better let you go. I talked too damn long. But look in museums and look in, I guess, YouTube or Facebook or whatever else media you got out there, and find out different ways to can. Because I'm going to tell you something. It's a coming our way. These wine bottles. Why do you think they would take these wine bottles, fill it up with wine, put a cork in it, and then they'd dip this in wax to seal it off? And now they used to pasteurize wine. All the wine you buy in Walmart been pasteurized, brought up to 140. So it quits aging. Because they want the first bottle to taste like the last bottle. back in the day, they didn't pasteurize, and that's why Bordeaux 1941 was a good year because it aged along the years. Well, if you pasteurize it, it won't age. I learned these damn things. I gotta put this up. I got a bunch of shit to do today. I gotta get that wine up. I already got the vinegar up. I gotta start some jellies, jams. So I'm telling you why I got power. And they ain't set off the bomb yet. I'm getting ready. Oh, I'm tired already. I've been doing too much. This, like I said, listen to older people. They know what the hell they're talking about. Because they've been through the Depression. They've been through the Dust Bowl. They've been through the First and Second World War, the Civil War. A lot of people telling you about that. A lot of old people been through the Second World War. When they didn't have nothing. Couldn't get no coupons. Couldn't get no sugar. Learn how to make your sugar. Sugar beets. Sap out of trees. Maple syrup got your sugar. You know, learn to can with honey. I'm going to go get my dogs in. They've been outside for way too long. Talk to you later.